All right, our YouTube stream is live.
Okay, so I guess we're ready to start. I'd like to welcome all the members on the committee, as well as the viewers out in East Ferris that are partaking to this meeting of the Committee of Adjustments. I want to start by introducing the committee members. We have Terry Kelly, member of council.
Evening, welcome.
We have John Simmons.
Good evening.
Al Haroff.
Good evening.
And we have Carrie Hasselman, who is on the representing the municipality, as well as Greg Curtin, our planning advisor. Greg, would you like to read the intro, please?
Sure. Sorry, the dogs are not cooperating. Sorry about that. Thanks, Frank. So I just wanted to make one quick correction. So it is Planning Advisory Committee that we're doing right now. Our Committee of Adjustment is starting at 7 p.m. Just in case anyone watching is wondering. But it is the same committee members that deal with both committees. So with that being said, we are doing Planning Advisory Committee right now. So the Planning Advisory Committee is a subcommittee of council that makes recommendations on certain planning applications. They table a recommendation which goes to council at a future meeting for final approval. In most cases, the applications are based in Planning Act policy. In the case of the one this evening, it's a shoreline road allowance closure, so it's actually a municipal act item, but it still comes to this committee. And the process that we will follow is we will hear a presentation from the applicant. We'll go through any questions the committee has. We'll go through any correspondence received in the file. Following that, if there's any public interest or public comment, we'll hear from members of the public, and then the committee will make a decision on a recommendation.
Thank you, Greg. I guess we're ready to proceed with our first presentation.
We have the resolution to appoint Frank Corbeil as chair first on the agenda and minutes.
I'll move that.
Moved by Al, seconded by John Simmons. Frank Corbeil, we appointed acting chair as per section 3.7 of the municipality's procedural bylaw.
Thank you, Carrie.
And can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda for this evening? Moved by Terry Kelly, seconded by John Simmons, that the draft agenda presented to the committee and dated May 11th, 2022 be hereby adopted as circulated.
We have John Simmons and we have Al Haroff.
And can I get a mover and a seconder to accept the minutes of the meeting on February 16th, please?
I'll move it.
And we have Al Haroff and Terry Kelly.
Thank you.
Greg, can we proceed now with the first presentation?
Yes, just the first thing we need to do is see if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest among any of the members. So if anyone has any.
No, there is none.
Okay, in that case, we don't have anything for item 4, ratepayers delegation. So we'll move into public hearing. So I believe the names in the waiting room aren't clear, but I believe this is the person for this application. So we'll see if this is correct.
Good evening.
Hello.
You're here to make a presentation to the committee in regards to your application. Could you maybe fill us in on what your plans are.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Melissa, this is Eve. We bought 750 Hemlock Island, that little portion. And last summer we moved from Trout Lake, and because we wanted to be closer into town, and we were very excited to be able to obtain this piece of property. We've gone ahead and we've got our architect drawings done. Gray water permit is in starting. We have Hydro 1 going out on July 19th. We've met a few neighbors. We weren't able to get out very much last year, maybe 5 times. And when we went out on October 8th, we had a burnt log on our dock. So we feel like our privacy would be really, really appreciated, because we don't know how that log got there, nor do we want to blame anybody for putting it there. But privacy is a big thing for us. We have 2 little dogs, and we're going to go into construction pretty soon. There's dog business all over in front, like on the shoreline. So we would like to just be able to maintain that for ourselves and our family if possible.
Greg, can you elaborate on that for us?
Sure. Thanks, Greg. So the only piece of correspondence we received on the application was from the North Bay Manitoba Conservation Authority. They stated no objection to the applicant's proposal. From the perspective of the municipality's planning documents, this is very similar to other shoreline road allowance closures that we've done on Hemlock Island, which have been approved, and ones that we've done elsewhere in the municipality. There's no impact to access or municipal operations or anything that may prevent the sale and closure. So the municipality has no objection as well.
Okay, well, if there's no objections, maybe we'll see how the committee feels. Terry?
I have no objections at all. It's we've set a precedent on Hemlock Island and in other areas, and need for privacy is, I think it's tantamount to, quite frankly, tantamount to having your own property, and you've got some plans for construction, which congratulations on having a lot. And I understand perfectly. I live on the lake, and a lot of people on Osmondsing have bought their shoreline allowance as well. Wow. Thank you. I have no objection.
Thanks, Terry. John?
Yep, I support it as well.
And Al? You were muted, Al.
Sorry about that. Anyway, I don't have any objections.
Okay, well, I guess we need a motion to accept. We have Terry and Al.
I'll read the resolution. File number LSRA 2022-01. Whereas a request has been made by Eve and Melissa Forte to close and purchase the original shoreline road allowance abutting 705 Hemlock Island, and whereas bylaw number 2015-35 provides policies and procedures for the disposition of shoreline road allowances in the municipality of East Ferris, and whereas the request would comply with the policy set out in bylaw number 2015-35, therefore be it resolved that the request made by Eve and Melissa Forte to close and purchase the original shoreline road allowance abutting 705 Hemlock Island be recommended to proceed.
Okay, based on that, all those in favor? And carried. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for your information, I'll just chime in quickly. The next step in the process, so this committee makes recommendations to council. So the approval recommendation that was just made will go to the next regular meeting of council. So that's on May 24th. And then they'll pass a final approval if they agree with the recommendation. And then I'll be in touch with you with like what the next steps are and what's required of you to finalize the transfer.
Sorry, I muted. I had my grandson yelling in the background. So usually about how long does this take? I know previously you stated it took about 2 years for some people.
So it did take some people upwards of 2 years, but the longest part of the whole process is getting the survey work done. So there's a requirement to get the shoreline surveyed, and especially when the building boom kind of started at the start of COVID, surveyors were in high demand and short supply. So that's kind of what happened there. But with regards to the actual like legal paperwork, we have to pass it by law council, and then there's the standard kind of sale and transfer that a lawyer prepares. But generally speaking, it's the survey that takes the most amount of time. But that's all stuff that if approved by council, I'll go through with you after their meeting on the 24th.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You
Greg, can we proceed to the next one?
That is all we have for Planning Advisory Committee tonight. The other 4 items are all in the Committee of Adjustment. But I can advise that we have no correspondence, no new business, and no in-camera items are on tonight's agenda. So it's adjournment.
Okay.
I'll
Have
move
a-
that.
Al Haroff and John Simmons. All those in favor? Carried.
Great.
Okay, we're back at 7.
Yeah. For anybody watching, we'll be back to start the Committee of Adjustment meeting at 7 p.m. And I'll leave the YouTube stream going until then.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
Boy, the ice went fast, Frank, eh? You're muted.
So pardon?
The ice went fast.
Oh, yeah, it did.
It was
Yeah.
actually good to see. It made it safer for the animals.
Yeah. Yeah. 1 week we had 18 inches and next week we had shell ice.
I know. Yeah, it turned black really fast.
Yeah.
Wow. You see any eagles down your way?
No.
No. We get them down. We get them down here. They come off the big lake, but there's 2 nests down off of South Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we get them up here because the bay is shallow and the fish, they're reachable for them, eh?
Right.
Yeah. How are you keeping, Al?
I'm keeping fine. How about you, Terry?
Doing good, thank you. Just waiting for the word. But I guess COVID's got the hospitals full, so it'll be a while.
Now, just a minute. Waiting for what word, Terry?
I'm getting my other hip done.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
Yeah.
I hope you have better luck than I did.
Yeah, it seems to be all over the map, Frank. Some
Yeah.
people it seems to work, and some people not so much. And I've talked to a variety of people, and it's all over the map.
Yeah. I know they did mine twice and it's got to be done a third time.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
Damn. The same one, Frank?
Yeah.
Have
Wow.
they got a time for that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No. I see my my doctor at the end of the month and I'm going to go out of town.
Okay. Lewis did mine in North Bay, and I can't complain at all. But you know, you just don't know. That's for sure. There's no guarantees. So, John, you really don't know where you picked it up, but you think you're under the weather a little bit, eh?
Oh, man, yeah. Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's flying around. John O'Rourke has it, but it's knocked him out. Like, I don't think he could talk much at all.
Jeez, and you both you guys are active people.
Fairly.
You know, really, yeah.
Did you say John O'Rourke had it?
Yeah, like whatever this is. And
Yeah.
I've done a couple of rapid tests and haven't seen that it's COVID yet. It hasn't come back positive, but it sure presents like that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, is that what does Bill Bulk have it as well?
That I don't know.
Well, I was lucky. I got my 4th shot. So
Nice.
yeah.
We go for our 4th one the end of May. Yeah. And there again, that's all over the map too. It just happenstance. Some people it seems to not bother, and other people it just puts them down. Wow.
Yeah.
But it's not going away. We're into 2.5 years. It's still prevalent.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're just waiting on Carrie, Greg?
Yep.
And there she
I'm here,
is.
sorry.
Okay, are we set to start? Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody, committee members, as well as the people partaking in this evening's meeting to the planning or the Committee of Adjustment meeting. And Greg, could you give us the introduction, please?
Sure. Thanks, Frank. So tonight is the Committee of Adjustment meeting. We had our Planning Advisory Committee meeting at 6:30. So the Committee of Adjustment is a subcommittee of council that's empowered by the Planning Act to make decisions on minor variance and consent to sever applications. So the decisions made at this committee are final and they don't go on to council afterwards. The process for these applications is that we hear a presentation from the applicant. Any questions of the committee members are asked to the applicant. I'll go over any correspondence we received. And then if there's any public presentations or anyone wishing to address the committee, we'll hear from them. and then the committee will make a decision on the application following that.
Thanks, Greg. Now, do we need a motion with me as vice chair? Or me as chair? Acting chair.
We do, yeah, we should pass another resolution.
Then I'll move it.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in
Right.
favor? Yes. Great. So I guess we'll start the meeting off with the adoption of the agenda. Can I get somebody to accept the agenda that's presented?
I
We
will,
have,
Frank.
We have Al and we have John Simmons. And can I get a mover for accepting the minutes of the previous meeting of April the 20th? We have Terry Kelly and John Simmons. I'll now ask for a disclosure of preliminary interest in general nature thereof. Are there any? And I don't see any. Greg, are there any ratepayers delegations?
There are not, no.
No. And we'll move on to business arising from the last meeting. And I don't see any. And so I guess we'll move on to item 6, public hearing. And our first hearing is our application B 2021-47 and B 2021-48, Michelle Champagne. And hi, Michelle.
Hey, Frank. Thank
Um,
you for having us, for having me.
Could you just, I know this, the last time it was presented, it was deferred.
It was deferred, yes, until the Conservation Authority had a chance to come over and see the property in question. They have been over and there's no issues at all.
Greg, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. Do you guys have any questions?
No, I was just asking Greg if he did.
Oh, Greg, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. I have a couple things to go over. So we received 2 pieces of correspondence on this file. One was a follow-up letter from the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority, and one was a letter from the adjacent neighbor at 58 Durland Road. So I'll speak to the Conservation Authority correspondence first. So as Mr. Champagne mentioned, we went out and did a site visit. So I met with him and 2 staff members from the North Bay Mattawa Conservation Authority. So primarily what we wanted to look at was the suitability for a septic installation for the northerly lot that was being proposed. It turns out that once the snow melted and we could get a good look, everything looks okay with that. So the Conservation Authority had no concerns. Previously, from a staff perspective, I expressed no concerns based on our planning policies with regards to location, lot layout, lot frontage, lot area. So the major thing that we wanted to look at for this one was that suitability for septic. The other thing that we did, so the second part of the Conservation Authority comments, we did a minimum distance separation calculation. The existing barn that's on Mr. Champagne's property is in reasonable proximity to the lot that's being proposed on Durland Road. So as a result of the use and capacity of the barn, there is a very, very small restriction based on the MDS calculation. Essentially what it would mean is if a future builder tried to put a home in the very, very back corner at minimum setbacks, minimum everything, it'd probably hit that MDS zone. So functionally, it doesn't have any impact. It does shave along the edge of the lot a little bit. Not enough to cause any impact to the suitability of the lot or the suitability of a septic installation. So both of those things check out. And as a result, the Conservation Authority has revised their comment to have no objection to the applications. The second piece of correspondence we received was a letter from the Lottses. They're the owners of 58 Durland Road. So I think that they may have just moved to the property between when we originally heard this application and now at this meeting. So they highlighted concerns. So we received this piece of correspondence after you received your packages, so it wasn't in your package, but I'll go over it right now. So they're concerned that that a future builder may impact the vegetation on their lot and may also impact their privacy. So they had requested that that any vegetation, land, or trees of property and their property not be disturbed during development. This of course isn't something that the developer can do. You can't clear vegetation not on your own property. So I think that that concern is alleviated. But I'll read all of their comments here just because you didn't have a chance to review beforehand. So they start here and they say, we would request that any of our land, trees, vegetation, and property not be disturbed during the development and building process and any and all processes in between. We want to make sure that if this application makes it to the survey phase, that the survey is 100% accurate and follows the proper process and requirements. We are concerned about the noise and daily disruption to our lives, especially with young children, and being in such a quiet area, the noise and sound will be even louder. The 26 feet side yard setback has us concerned. So what they're referencing there is that in this zone, an 8-meter side yard setback to a main dwelling is required, which translates to roughly 26 feet. They say this has them concerned because it doesn't seem like a large enough setback for a rural zone property. If the buyers do decide to go with a minimum setback for whatever reason, that would almost certainly negatively affect the privacy and atmosphere of our property. They go on to say, I would like to offer some requests for the seller of the lot to be severed and for future property owner to be considered, please. Would the seller of the lot under land consider selling a portion of their land instead of the portion beside 58 Durland for all the reasons I had listed above? From my understanding, there's a large amount of property owned by the residents of 1619 Corbeil Road. This would be something that my family would greatly appreciate, and the seller of the land would still benefit financially from selling a different lot. I would go as far as to say this whole end of Durland Road together would appreciate it, I'm sure, for the reasons mentioned and likely others. It would be nice to keep this part of East Ferris quaint, country, and environmentally natural instead of slowly turning it into a suburb over time by one family who holds all the cards. If the lot severs and the buyers build, could they please consider keeping a good portion of the bush intact between 58 Durland and the new lot? Could they also consider having a larger setback to committee and whom it may concern? Is there any kind of process that exists that would allow for an application to amend the minimum setback for these rurally zoned properties in question? Multiple reasons would exist outside of my personal ones, such as the environmental impact on this land, keeping the history, heritage, and conservation of this land as well. Thank you for taking the time to present this letter in the meeting and voicing my family's concerns. Sincerely, Brian Lotz. Thank you for bearing with me there. The COVID isn't making it easy to read out long stretches, but anyways, we got through it. So I'll provide a little bit of context to some of those things for you as well. With regards to a process that was mentioned to amend the bylaw standards, that is something that is possible, of course, through a zoning bylaw amendment. However, we can't force a greater setback through that process. That's more someone looking to do other amendments. What I can say about the 8-meter side yard setback is that council has deemed that through passing the zoning bylaw to be the appropriate setback for rural zone lots. So we should take that to mean that we're looking at the creation of the lot, not the siting of the building. So we need to consider whether it's appropriate to create this lot in this spot, and then the zoning bylaw standards will take care of the siting of the building later. So for that reason, primarily, I think that the future siting of a building is somewhat irrelevant to this application process, at least strictly speaking, from the policies contained in Section 51 of the Planning Act. So what's more important is conformity with our official plan and zoning bylaw, which this proposal does have. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions related to the letter that was submitted by the neighbor. But I thought I'd provide some context about the relationship between building and the planning policies.
Thanks, Craig. I do have one. When this application first came up to us, we deferred it based on our request for something from the Mattawa Conservation. Is that correct?
That's correct. It
Yeah,
was winter.
so in receiving that correspondence, then really, and with there having no issues with it, it shouldn't be too much of a decision, right?
Well, I'm of the opinion that the law creation is appropriate, as outlined in my report. But the committee obviously needs to satisfy itself that all of the policies of the Planning Act and our official plan is met. So my recommendation is contained in my planning report. But yeah, you'll have to go through the process, obviously.
Yeah. Do I have anything from the committee? Any questions of Greg and Mike? Terry?
Thank you, Frank. Greg, could I have the size of both the lots that are being severed, please?
They're both 2 acres.
Okay, and that conforms to our plan, and an acre is the size, 1 acre is basically the size of a CFL football field. So these are good size lots.
2 acres, it does conform with our plan, yes.
Very good. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, I'm good. I support approval.
Al? You're muted, Al.
I'm okay with the application.
Okay, well, if everybody's okay, we'll put a motion to the floor. Carrie, do you have the motion?
I'll make a motion. Accept it.
Okay. Seconder? John Simmons? Carrie, can you read the motion, please?
File number B 2021-47 and B 2021-48. The applicant is requesting consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of creating 2 new lots from the property at 10 Durland Road. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the requested consent is in conformity with the policies laid out in the East Ferris official plan and is consistent with the requirements of section 51-24 of the Planning Act. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on the 11th day of May 2022, that the requested consent to create 2 new additional lots be approved conditional upon the following for each application. That confirmation is provided that all taxes are paid up to date, that a plan of survey is prepared and filed with the municipality, that a plan of survey be sent electronically to the municipality of East Ferris Community Planner, that the applicant pays $250 in finalization fees prior to the transfer of the parcel of land, that the applicant is required to pay $1,000 per consent application to the municipality of East Ferris for the parkland dedication fee, that the transfer of land is submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for the issuance of the certificate of consent, that subsection 53 of the Planning Act as amended applies to any subsequent conveyance or transaction of or in relation to the parcel of land, and that all conditions must be filled within 2 years from the date the notice of decision has been given. Otherwise, this provisional consent will lapse and the application for consent shall be deemed refused.
Okay, based on the motion, all those in favor? And carried. Thank you, Michelle.
I thank you. So now the next step for me, just to be clear now, is I can contact a surveyor and try to get this done as submitted.
Greg, can you answer?
Yeah, sorry, I think I got that. My internet connection has been kind of unstable. But the next steps, Mr. Champagne, I'll send you a copy of the decision made by the committee. There's a notice that goes with that with some other timelines on it. And it'll give you a list of the conditions that's required to finalize your application. So expect all of that within the next week from me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll move on to application B 2022-08. Miller Erso surveying on behalf of decking and siding, Centennial Crescent at Highway 17. Mr. Miller in the waiting room. Hi, Rick.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm great, thanks.
Good.
Do you want to speak on behalf of your application?
Sure. The application I have before you tonight is a property on Centennial Crescent at the corner of Centennial Crescent and Highway 17. The property is a fairly large piece of property, and there's no dwellings or anything on it. The portion that we're asking to sever contains a Bell Mobility cell tower and the guy wires that support it. The balance of the property is vacant. Our client has a long-term lease on this portion of the property with Bell Mobility and also with Rogers. And for business reasons, he would like to separate this from the balance of the property. Both the severed and retained are accessed by existing driveways off Centennial Crescent. And there's no proposed changes to the property at this time. So those are my comments. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Do you have anything to add to this, or?
Thanks, Frank. The only thing I have to add is that we received comments from the Ministry of Transportation stating that they have no objection to the application. The lot that's being severed fronts onto Centennial, and the MTO in
Frozen in
but
time.
they didn't have any objection to this lot conversion process.
Thanks, Greg. Are there any questions from the committee members? Terry? John?
Nope.
Al?
Nope.
And I have none as well. So in saying that, can I have a motion
I'll put
to,
forward a motion to move forward with this application.
and can we have a seconder?
Sure,
Terry?
sure, definitely. Yep. I'll second it. Thank you.
Carrie, can you read the motion, please?
File number B 2022-08. The applicant is requesting consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of creating one new lot from the subject property. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the requested consent is in conformity with the policies laid out in the East Ferris official plan. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on the 11th day of May 2022, that the requested consent to create one new additional lot be approved, conditional upon the following. Confirmation is provided that all taxes are paid up to date, and a plan of survey is prepared and filed with the municipality, that a plan of survey be sent electronically to the municipality of East Ferris community planner, that the applicant pays $250 in finalization fees, that the applicant is required to pay $1,000 per consent application to the municipality of East Ferris for the parkland dedication fee, that the transfer deed of land is submitted to the secretary treasurer for the issuance of the certificate of consent, that subsection 53 of the Planning Act as amended applies to any subsequent conveyance or transaction of or in relation to the parcel of land, and that all conditions must be filled within 2 years from the date the notice of decision has been given. Otherwise, this consent will lapse. This provisional consent will lapse, and the application for consent shall be deemed refused.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yeah, even our COVID people. Thank you. So Greg will proceed, I guess, to item B 2022-09, Luke and Valerie Foy of 1305 Centennial Crescent. to permit the establishment of an easement to formalize access over an existing lot. Good evening.
How's it going?
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your application?
I don't really know much about it.
They left it up to me and I screwed it up. We own 10 acres, almost 10 acres on Centennial Crescent. We got approved to make one lot to the right of our current property. And I don't know exactly what I did with the driveway. So I think we need access for an easement. I think that's what we.
Greg, can you?
Sure, I can fill in. So what happened is when the committee approved the lot creation for this property last year, they're in the process of finalizing it right now. And basically through that finalization process, it became apparent that a small part of their existing lot would need to be crossed by the driveway to access the new lot. So you may recall that we condensed the driveways side by side, or the access points side by side, based on a report from FRI Ecological to have limited impact to the adjacent wetland. So as a result of the access locations, it turns out a small portion of their existing lot needs to be crossed by the driveway for the other lot. So in an effort to basically legalize everything and do it by the book, the applicant has requested another consent to establish an easement. So this wouldn't establish any new lots. The only lot being created would be the one in last year's application. This would just allow deeded access for the future site, like building site on the lot that they created, to cross a small portion of their existing lot.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg.
Are there any questions from the committee? Terry?
Oh, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
John?
Yeah, no, I remember that creation, and no, I support the application.
Al?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I guess we need a motion.
I
Yeah.
will.
Okay, we have Al and we have John. Carrie, can you read the motion, please?
File number B 2022-09. The applicant is requesting consent to sever from the Committee of Adjustment for the purpose of creating an easement to formalize access over an existing lot. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the requested consent is in conformity with the policies laid out in the East Ferris official plan. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on the 11th day of May 2022, that the requested consent to create an easement be approved, conditional upon the following: that taxes are paid up to date, that a plan of survey is prepared and filed with the municipality, that a plan of survey be sent electronically to the municipality of East Ferris community planner, that the applicant pays $250 in finalization fees, that the transfer of land is submitted to the secretary treasurer, that subsection 53 of the Planning Act as amended applies to any subsequent conveyance or transaction of in relation to the parcel of land, and that all conditions must be filled within 2 years from the date the notice of decision has been given. Otherwise, this provisional consent will lapse and the application for consent shall be deemed to be refused.
Okay. All those in favor? And it's carried. Thank you, Luke and Val.
Thank you.
Greg, do you want to tell them what's going to happen next?
Sure. So I guess they're familiar with it from last year's application, but it'll be the same process as the consent you did last year. So I'll have a copy of the decision and the conditions, and I'll get that to you and also your lawyer that's finalizing your current consent.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, we'll move on to our last application of the evening. Application A 2022-01. Tyler Ellis on behalf of Dan and Lauren Rodeker of 56 Kyle Road. Are they in the waiting room?
We have both of them here, the
Yeah.
agent and the owner.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to our last application of the evening. Application A 2022-01. Tyler Ellis on behalf of Dan and Lauren Rudiker of 56 Kyle Road.
Tyler, if you're able to mute the YouTube stream in the background, that would be helpful.
There we go. Mouse died.
Okay, we hear you, but we can't see you. There you go.
Hello, everybody.
So, Lauren, Tyler, can you tell us a little bit about the application?
Hi there. Yeah, so basically for a garage that we're applying for an upstairs storage unit in the top, I guess the bylaw states that 18 feet is to the midway point in between the eaves and the peak of the roof. We would like to go a little bit taller, and the ceilings on all the way around at a full 8 feet. So what we're asking for, I guess, is for that midway point to be pushed up to 21 foot 5 7/8. Just a small adjustment, just so we get more usable headroom in the building.
Okay, Greg, can you give us a little bit more information?
Sure. So yeah, the applicant's applying for a minor variance to increase the overall height of an accessory structure. I do want them to clarify one thing though, because when we were going back and forth about the notices, I had it listed that their height request was 6.25 meters, which comes out to about 20.5 feet. But I just heard 21 and something. So in either case, I think that the same planning rationale applies. We you know, it's not a large increase, and when we look at the impact or potential impact, it's negligible in my opinion. But I just want to make sure that we have the right number, because if it's higher than what they're granted, then they won't be able to get a building permit. So we'll need to make sure they know they have the exact height number.
So the exact height number would be 23 foot 11 7/8 is finished to the peak, including just the finished metal roof that's going to be on there. So when I just went down, it was at approximately at a 512 pitch. So our midway point, I guess, are we applying for the full height or the midway point?
The midway point. So our bylaw measures height to the midpoint between the eaves and the peak.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, 21 foot 5 7/8. Or if we could just go for an easy number, and you want to say 22 feet.
We could. I'd be comfortable with that if the committee is, but I just want to make sure that we have it right.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm fine with it.
John, you okay?
Yep, good.
Al? You're muted again.
I'm okay, Frank.
Thanks. So based on that information, can we have a mover then?
I'll move it.
Terry, and can I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Al?
Yep.
Carrie, can you read the motion, please?
File number A 2022-01. The owner is seeking a minor variance to permit an increase to the maximum permitted accessory structure height to 22 feet. We, the undersigned, in making the decision upon this application, have considered whether or not the variance requested was minor and desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land, and that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan will be maintained. Concur in the following decision and reasons for decision on the 11th day of May 2022 that the requested variance to permit the increase in accessory structure height be approved.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Greg, can you fill Mr. Ellis and Mr. Rudiker on what's the next procedure is?
Sure. Thanks, Frank. Apologies for my internet connection as well. I'm not sure why it's acting up so badly tonight. But the next step in the process, I'll get a copy. So there will be a decision and a notice of decision from tonight's meeting that will outline the approval that this committee granted you, and then some other timelines associated with that. So within the next week, I will send you both a copy of that.
Good. Thank you, and hope you have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that was the last of the presentations, Greg. Do we have any in camera?
No in camera, no correspondence.
So can I get a mover to adjourn the meeting? We have Al and we have John. And I'm sure Al's in favor, or Terry's in favor.
Definitely.
Okay.
Good job, Frank.
Yeah, great job, Frank. Thanks for
Thank
you.
on short notice.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Take care.
All right,
Have a good
everyone.
evening.